Is Brant Hunt. Today, again, is the third day of March. I'm doing another reading today of Chapter 2 from Red Hawk called Self-Observation. Someone would say, why don't you give us a synopsis of this? And I chose not to do that in this particular book because I feel it's important that each person can hear the reading of the book so that they can understand what is being taught and being spoken, and not me doing a what I was called a symposium, not a symposium, but it's just a brief overview of this, when it's important for those to hear this, because I feel that Red Hawk did an excellent job in explaining these ideas in a way that's in today's language, in a more modern perspective or interpretation than what was done by Ouspensky or Gertrup, even though both these men were in the basically over 100, right around 100 years ago. They were in their prime, not quite in their prime, but they were. Eventually, both of them passed away. Ouspensky passed away in 1948, and Gertrup passed away in 49. We do have what we call Maurice Nicole, who wrote the commentaries of Gertrup, which he passed away in the 60s. So this language is far more contemporary and actually conveys what's for those who are younger. So this is Chapter 2, and the chapter is called The Mammal Instrument Inner Processes. When you identify with the mind, you cannot be very intelligent because you become identified with an instrument. You become confined by the instrument and its limitations. And you are unlimited. You are consciousness. Use the mind, but don't become it. Mind is a beautiful machine. If you can use it, it will serve you. If you cannot use it and it starts using you, it is destructive. It is dangerous. It is bound to take you into some suffering and misery. And that's what most of us are actually dealing with in our lives daily, is we are suffering. Many are suffering when they go to bed at night and they can't sleep because their mind doesn't stop thinking or remembering this, or what you got to do the next day. It doesn't allow you to rest. And there are more other things also that take you off in tangents, and you waste time of your life. You're only here for a short period of time. And with the mind, it wants to, because the mind is afraid it's going to die. Mind cannot see. It can only go on repeating that which has been fed into it. It is like a computer. First, you have to feed it, but you should remain the master so that you can use it. Otherwise, it starts directing you. This is from Osho, The Way of the Buddha. From birth, we are taught untruths, many of them unintentionally, from ignorance. One such important untruth is that we have a soul. That is a very bad teaching because it suggests that the soul is separate from myself, as in, you have a car, thus the car is a possession of mine, separate from me. So we grow up believing that the soul is somewhere in the body and is a possession of mine, but is not who I am. Good teaching would help me to understand not that I have a soul, but that I am a soul. And I exist for a brief moment in a human biological instrument, that is the human body. We are souls having a human experience. I've heard that many times explained on Facebook. Although they use sometimes the word spirit. As far as I can tell, we humans are the only creatures on the planet with two natures in one body. We are human beings, a human, which is Mammal and is the body, and a being which is not human and is not the body. Here I will use being and soul to mean the same thing. The souls who are sent to earth are sent to a kindergarten for undeveloped souls. So this is the beginning ground for us to discover who we are, why we're here. This is like a school. That's what we're here to understand. With help, we cannot do it alone, and help is always available if I have the eyes to see it and the ears to hear it. Of all the sources of help available to the soul in its development, none is more crucial, more helpful, more revealing, or more direct and personal than self-observation. It's a beautiful system we are born into, as perfect and precise as as the intelligence which makes it and of us. Because we are meant to function and develop it efficiently, safely, and effectively in this school for souls. This kindergarten, the curriculum is designed not as a generalization so that one size fits all, the way our ordinary external education is designed. In this school, self-observation reveals exactly what is needed and wanted to each individual soul, when it is needed, how it is needed, and at what speed it will be implemented. We do not learn at the same pace. Very intelligent people may learn slowly. The learning which arises from self-observation happens at exactly the pace with which I am able and willing to observe, no more and no faster. Thus, it is safe and is tailored precisely to the needs of each individual soul. I am in charge of the moment. I'm in charge of the amount and the pace at which I learn. The first thing which needs to be understood, and this will be repeated in many different ways throughout this owner's manual because it is difficult for the human mind to believe, is this: the act of self-observation is the only change a human being needs to make in her behavior. Everything else, all fundamentally changes in behavior, emotion, and thinking, arises as a byproduct of this practice. In other words, self-observation is radical, revolutionary, evolutionary, and fundamentally changed in the inner world of the human biological instrument. Werner Heisenberg was a 20th century German physicist. He had an insight which altered the way we see physics, and this insight was called Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It said simply this: the act of observation changes a thing observed. Do you remember the test? This was a test done. I saw it on a video many years ago, that the observer does have an effect upon a product, something being shot from a certain way. I don't know if you're well aware of that video, but that speaks of that. And that's what he's saying. The act of observation changes the things observed. And this proves to be true on the micro as well as the macro level, from the observation of subatomic particles to this observation of galaxies. The law of physics and the law of metaphysics are identical. Physics describes external laws, metaphysics internal laws. Thus, self-observation changes what is observed within. I do not have to change anything. In fact, to attempt to do so is error and leads to trouble. I don't know what to change or how to change it. This makes sense when you think about what Vernon Howard shared. I shared that last night about the map, the internal map that is in our hearts, such and such. He was trying to find a place, and he knew he was lost, and the map was the only tool that he had, which is based upon self-observation, in order for him to get to the right place. And it was in a windy country, as he shared, and what happened was simply the map blew away. And instead of him pursuing it to the point of knowing that it was the only opportunity for him to actually find his way to the person he was supposed to meet, he chose to his own way. And after many hours and frustration, which is what we do many times, thinking that we're actually going to solve the problem, instead of calming down, we actually blow up. We get worse off because of the stresses of trying to find this place and we can't find it. So the map is an illustration of what we need to do internally. So all I have to do is observe myself honestly and without judgment. We are souls in a mammoth body. The body has inner functions, among which are intellectual, emotional, instinctively, and moving functions. Each of these functions use a special energy technique to its function and different from the energy of the other functions. Thus, the energy required for thought is not the same as the energy of emotions. This is easily observed, and also the difference may be sensed as well as observed. Observation includes sensing the body, sensing its limbs, its weight and mass, as well as the energy which moves within it. Each of these energetic functions within has its own energy centers, sometimes called in other systems called chakras. Intellectual center is thinking center, head and brain. Left hemisphere, that is, emotional center is emotions and is located roughly in the region of the mid-breast solar plexus. Instinctive center is located at the navel, and moving center is located at the base of the spine. These centers of energy can be sensed with direct attention. Each of these centers operate with a different energy and at different speeds. To illustrate this simply, suppose a man is walking through the tall grass to the river, and alongside the trail, a snake is poised to strike. Before he can consciously do anything, his body leaps aside. This illustrates the relative speed of centers in relation to each other. Instinctively, the center is so fast that it can break down, absorb, and disseminate one sip of alcohol or one pain pill within second or even milliseconds of its intergestion, which, when you consider it, is truly astonishing. If intellectual center has to do that, it would take days, weeks, and years following instinctive centers as speed is, as you may have deduced, moving center. Moving center responds to instinctive center reaction to the snake very, very quickly from survival need. For the purpose of simplifying them things, some traditions join moving and instinctively centers, speaking of them as instinctively moving centers, and speak them of three-centered man. This is the illustration of what Gertrude did in his work as he followed what we would call the dances that were done in the past, and that him and another gentleman worked with this and eventually would use these movements of the body. And so with this, Gertrude's work, for example, uses a simplification and is useful for our purpose here as well. For more exact descriptions of speed of centers, see Ouspensky in Search of the Miraculous, and also Ouspensky, the psychological of man's possible evolution. Intellectual centers is much, much slower, and after the fact, once the body is safely out of danger, the mind reacts, but too slowly to save my life. This was the job of instinct moving, and always led to know is intellectual center. Always last to know is intellectual center. Always last to know because it is by far, far the slowest of the four centers. Once I have an emotional change or charge, and the body's out of danger, now the intelligence center grasps the situation and begins to take what has happened in the past and projects it in the future and says, oh my God, I'm never walking down this path again. And yet ponder this, it is to this center, the slowest of all centers, the center which is always the last to know, which we assign the impossible burden of running our life. This is not what it was designed to do, but what it has been forced to do by our culture and our lifestyles. Our entire educational system is designed to educate on the intellectual centers. Emotions and feelings which are not the same have no place in our education, nor does instinct. We use it to the least give a nod to the physical body, moving center with what we call physical education. But even that much has mostly disappeared from our technological and scientific educational structure. The result is an unbalanced human. Every one of us is unbalanced. That is, we have our center of gravity or response to life in one of the three centers. Instinctively moving or sensual person or emotional person whose primary response to life is emotional, or an intellectual person whose primary response is the third about things. In each of us, one center dominates, and thus our response to stimuli differs according to our type of center of gravity. One response is no greater or more valuable than another. They're all equal and all equally unbalanced and inappropriate to the situation at hand. So in order for intellectual centers to carry out this assignment for which it was not made and cannot perform, it must slow everything down. To do this, it runs everything through its stored habits. It's predictable, controllable, don't have to think about it, automatic pilot. Less stress from an impossible job. Whereas, if I trust my instincts, I get a whole different set of responses, not from the past habits, but from an immediate response to the present situation, operating from habit. I am inefficient and inappropriate most of the time. One of the first tasks of self-observation is to try to observe these centers in action and sense the quality of energy which is appropriate to the working of each center. There are more than 3 centers, of course, but for purposes of self-observation, it is useful to begin by trying to discern the action of these 3 centers and to sense the energy unique to each other. So that's chapter 2. And then I want to read a poem that he wrote here. It's called, from his book called The Sioux Dog Dance, talking about what we call the star driller's attention for little moose. In a dark and narrow tunnel they knelt, one behind the other, lit only by lamps on their hats, drilling holes for dynamite. The front man holds the 5-foot drill with its star-shaped tapered point. One hand is inches from the butt. Each beam it focuses on the point. He never looks back. The rear man, so there are 2 men working here. The rear man swings the 12-pound hammer with all his might. His beam, that is his eye, his focus is on the butt. He never looks away. The rhythmic noise of the blows is deafening in this small space, this small tight place. So their ears are plugged and they never speak. Sometimes the front man will tire and wish to rest. He cannot yell, he cannot turn, so just as the hammer strikes, he places his thumb directly over the butt, where the hammer lands. The rear man's beam is focused on the butt. He never looks away. So you see the point of this poem simply is that being focused on this particular butt of them doing the drilling, putting dynamite into mines. I appreciate you listening today. Thank you. If you have questions, I would try to entertain those as best I can. And thank you, and you have a good day.